Welcome to the Fermented Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Anna, and on this channel, I'm sharing our journey of learning how to turn our home into a homestead. Today is normally the day for a gardening video, but we're going to insert something considerably different here. Just to give you a bit of a warning, this video might be upsetting and or what they call triggering for some people who might take it out of context. Normally, I like to stick to food preservation, gardening, things along those lines, and that's kind of where my channel sits. But recent events have forced me to kind of speak up and say something because the times we're living in are pretty darn serious. For anybody who is unsure what I'm talking about or what this video is kind of centered around, it is going to be focused around the loss of our freedoms and the loss of our rights as people. Recently, the president has gone and announced that they are going to start to enforce a mandate on all employers who have more than 100 employees, as well as all federal employees, and I think pretty much any government people or government contractors are going to fall under that umbrella of being forced to, take the jab. The main reason for me making this video is actually I was inspired by Zach at the Stivers Homestead. He did a video, I'm not sure when you guys see this, it'll probably be a week ago, and he did a video on kind of somewhat along these lines. Prior to watching that video, honestly, it never even occurred to me to make a video about it. So I'm very thankful that he actually made that video, and it inspired me and made me kind of do a little bit of reflecting and seeing what else can I do to make a difference in this situation? What else can I do to help further the cause? What else can I do to help and to support those who are really putting themselves out there and who are really fighting for our freedom, basically? So I figured the least that I can do is put together a video and hopefully try and shed some light and help some people who don't really know what's happening in this situation and what's happening in this country and the ultimate potential consequences of what could be coming down the road if we do not choose to act now. As a homesteader, I am a very freedom-loving person. I enjoy freedom from a lot of things, as well as within my own body and the rights to make the choices that I wish to make. This video has nothing to do with being pro or anti either. That's got nothing to do with this conversation. It's not what this video is about in any way, shape, or form. So I just want to make sure that I'm being very clear on that. The only thing that I am attempting to address in this video is the importance of freedom. The importance of freedom with our own bodies, as well as with our own choices, and freedom against being forced to do things from a tyrannical government. For anybody who might be wondering, if we are living underneath a tyrannical government, the definition of it is a government in which a single ruler is vested with absolute power. This has definitely been the case for quite some time and definitely amped up far more since the beginning of all of this has begun. The definition of a tyrant is definitely not held exclusively for the president. I feel like the definition of a tyrant is all of the governors around this country who have come in and passed all of these proclamations and things that are not they're not technically like a law that regular citizens are forced to follow. They're able to actually get these agendas across without moving through the typical legislative process by passing all of these things and forcing government agencies to enforce them. The health department, LNI, OSHA, things like that, they are bound to follow these proclamations. And so all of these businesses are forced to follow these mandates in order to continue to have their licenses and to continue to have all their permits and things that they need to operate their businesses. So it's a de facto tyranny. We may not be forced to follow them, but the businesses and the agencies and things like that are. So the point in me coming to you today, and they're stepping on a slug there. The point in me coming to you and making this video has nothing to do whether you're pro or against. It makes no difference at this point. That has nothing to do with why what's happening right now is so wrong. If you're for it, go ahead, go get it. If you're against it, you shouldn't be forced to go and get it. This is something that is violating freedom at its very core. It is something that is forcing an individual to do something that they do not believe in, and not only just forcing them to do it, but forcing them to inject it into their bodies because you think it's right. That's wrong. It's wrong. If you wish to show evidence and you wish to convince people, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But forcing people to do something against their will that could potentially forever alter their health is wrong. It is something that should never be legal. Whether it is or not, it should not be legal. And it is something that every single person in the world should be very angry about. I don't see another word to describe it other than angry. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who are saying that it offers protection, it offers this, that, the other thing, whatever other unicorn farts that it promises. In my viewpoint is that if you believe that it works and if you believe that it works for you, go for it. Have at it. But that doesn't mean that because it doesn't work as well as it should or as well as you want to, that somebody else can come in and say, well, you have to take it now too because I said so and because I want you to protect me. That's not how it works. As an American, I feel that it has definitely come time to not comply. If we don't stand up now, if we don't say no now, it's hard to know whether there's going to be another chance. You have to make the decision as to whether or not you are a capable, grown adult who can make your own choices, and other people as well can make their own choices, or whether or not the government has the right to come in and force you to do things. And it doesn't have to apply just to this one thing. It doesn't apply to just this one thing. Trust me, it's not going to stop here. I know that the current markup for it is that you can, if it's on over 100 employees, and you have the option of testing once a week. That option will be removed very quickly. It will. They have already done it. They've done it for the state employees. They've done it for federal employees. Now you can't even have a religious exemption. So you're forced. You have no way out. You're either forced to take it or to quit your job and possibly lose your home and not be able to feed your family. That should not be something that's forced upon you. That shouldn't be a choice that you have to make. The slow erosion of freedom has been happening for 100 years, more than 100 years. It's just been a slow chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. My mom could see it back 30 years ago, and she told me about it when I was a kid. She's like, you can see this slight little erosion, just this one thing, just this one thing, and then just this one thing. I'm sure that we've all heard the quote by Benjamin Franklin. It says, any society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. And there's all types of variations of that quote, but it is very true. If you give your decision-making power over to somebody, you're going to get the results that you deserve, which is not good. All of the things that the founders went through, fought for, bled for, died for, so that we could have our government tell us what to do all the time. It seems kind of counterintuitive. I was on Facebook the other day, and I don't know if you're scrolling through Facebook and you get these ads for all these t-shirts with all these, sayings and all of these things that people put out there, and I click on them every once in a while, just out of curiosity to see what they are, how much they are, whatnot, where the company's founded in, all that kind of stuff. And I will occasionally buy something from there. But this one caught my eye in particular because it really went against just changing one word went against the very principles of the quote itself. And that the actual quote is I'm not verbatim, but the tree of liberty must from time to time be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants. And the t-shirt that I saw had removed patriots from that quote. In our day and age, the actual reality of that statement might be kind of swayed, but it still stands true. And when you remove that one word, when you're saying that basically what you're telling people is that it doesn't require anything from the patriot to refresh the tree of liberty. It's basically that you're just taking down the tyrants, and that it's just as simple as that. And it's not. I think through time, the realization of everything that happened to form this country and to have this country really be the first dictator-free country, and a country that is actually run by the citizens. I feel like what was gone through in order to get to this point is often forgotten, and I believe intentionally not taught. But you just kind of have to remember that it takes both the blood of both patriots and tyrants to be able to defeat them, and in order to ensure your freedom for generations to come. Our Constitution was written by some insanely intelligent and wisdom-filled people who I believe were divinely inspired to write this document. They'd had it written, everything covered from top to bottom, almost nothing was missing, and they had the ability to see into the future, things that would be happening right now. And I actually just recently bought a hat. I'm not actually wearing it because I ended up giving away all of the ones that I bought. But it says, "This is the government that founders warned us about," and that's where we're living in right now. We're supposed to have a separation of power. You're supposed to have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. And all of these are supposed to be separate but equal branches of power, basically. And it's to where you have the executive branch, obviously the president, the legislative branch, Congress that makes the laws, and then the judicial branch that interprets it. And now it's pretty much all of the power has been basically centralized with the executive branch. And instead of allowing all of these powers to work separately, to call in sessions of Congress to actually debate all of these different things that are happening right now, they're just coming down with a stroke of a pen and changing everybody's lives. We have allowed elected officials and appointed officials and just people who work for whoever to come in and change the original intention of the Constitution and the separation of everything. And we've simply stood by and allowed it to happen, hoping that somebody else would come up and somebody else would push back against all of these things, knowing that's unconstitutional, but it still goes through. That's not right. That shouldn't go through, but it still goes through because not enough people stand up and are willing to fight for the freedoms. They're not willing to fight for the freedoms of their children, and they're not willing to fight for our rights as a country and the future of our country as its existence. We have to remember that it's not somebody else's job to fight. It's not somebody's, and by fighting, I'm meaning not the official technical, like, put up your dukes kind of fighting. I'm talking about pushing back against it, going to protests, going to rallies. It's our job to fight. It's our job to stand firm. It's our job to stand strong. It's not our job to stand idly by and watch and hoping that somebody else will step up, and hoping that somebody else will come and save the day. Nobody's come to save the day. That's our job. Throughout history, there have been a very large number of takeovers of fairly peaceful countries in ways that were unthinkable. And probably one of the most noted, obviously, would be Nazi takeover of Germany. And you wonder how so many people would comply with something like that. And I think to some degree there is some cognitive dissonance there. Like, you just don't want to believe that it could happen, or that it would happen, or that it is happening. And to a large degree, it is people who, for lack of a better term, are sheeple, and they just follow orders and they just do as they're told. So often people these days, or maybe not these days, but in days past, have asked Jewish people who have been in concentration camps, or just people who lived in Germany, or people who just lived in Europe at the time, why they didn't get out. Looking back in history, you think that it all happened at once, and you had some kind of warning, and there was just from the start of everything, it was just like, this is where we're headed. I think people back then didn't understand the progression of everything. You have to remember that the ascension of Hitler took a very long time. He began in, I think it was 1918, And it was a very slow progression, and you can see through, I've watched a very, very long documentary on the rise of his power. I think it was like a multi-part. It was a really long, and also kind of just doing a little bit of research on it. You can see that it took a very long time for the sentiments of the German people to actually be changed over after World War I. That's kind of when things really started to change, and there was mass poverty and so many different things. And through the course of time, people were brainwashed into believing that this one person can change their situation, that can change their country, it can change the situation that they're in, their circumstances. And then he would take that into turning it over and blaming all of this one group of people for all of their problems, and saying that it's their fault that all of this happened. And if we could just get rid of these people, everything would go away, everything would be okay, and there wouldn't be any problems. All we have to do is just exterminate this one group of people. So people ask Jewish people why didn't they get out? And it was because it was so slow. It was just this slow progression of all of these little things happening, and then it would build and build and build and build until they're forced to walk down the street with a yellow star on their shirt, and they're forced to go into the ghettos, and then, you know, they're just starting to disappear from their ghettos, and you know, all of these different things started happening to the point that it was just out in the open, and everybody knew what was happening. And by that point, it was too late. I want to make sure that I'm being very clear here, and that I am not directly comparing our president to Hitler. Okay, it is simply, I don't think he has the capabilities or the faculties to do that, obviously. Let's be real here. Not to get political, come on. All I'm doing here is comparing, and honestly, to be totally honest, I don't even believe Hitler was actually Hitler. He was the people who were behind him. He was simply a puppet. He was a mouthpiece, and that's exactly what the current president is right now. He is a puppet, and he is I believe that he is a puppet, and he's simply just a mouthpiece for much more strong and powerful, capable, much more malicious, evil, and corrupt, insanely rich people who are behind him and who are backing him, and they're simply just using him to push their agenda. I believe that's what's happening, and I believe that's what happened back then as well. I'm not saying that the president is literally Hitler. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I don't even think Hitler was literally Hitler. I just want to make sure I'm being very clear on that. While I'm comparing the two, is simply a comparison. I hope that you guys will take this opportunity while you still have it to do some research and to do some soul searching and really decide where your line in the sand is. As Travis put it from the Prepared Homestead, you have to figure out where your line is and what you're willing to do when they cross it, because they will cross that line. Wherever it is, whatever it is, they'll cross it. And it's up to us as a free society, if you want to remain a free society, to stand up and to say no. I will not comply, and I will support those who are willing to go out on a limb and fight for our freedoms. Whether that's donating to people who are going out on a limb, I mean, it's an infinite number of people who are out there putting their neck on the line to fight for our freedoms, to fight for our country, and go out there and support them. Go to the rallies, even if it's on a work day, missed work. Go to the rallies, go to the protests. Of course, make sure that you're writing to your representatives, whether it's state level, whether it's county level, national, whatever it is. Call these people. Tell them that you are not in favor of this. Just vote with your dollars. That's the best thing that you can do. You can go to businesses that don't require proof of, the thing to get in. You can go to places that don't require their employees to get it. And you can let them know why you're not shopping there. If you just stop going there and you don't tell them why, it might make a difference, but it'll make more of a difference if you let them know why you're not shopping there, why you're not being a patron there. If they get enough people standing up to them and saying, I'm not going to support you because of this, it'll make a big difference. And above all else, don't comply. If you have already received it, and if you're great with your decision, and that's fine, that's awesome, that's great. Like I said, this has nothing to do with what. This simply has to do with the freedom to make choices as a free citizen. That is all that this is about. And I hope that you will take away from this video that is the intention of this. And I hope that you will take away from this video the importance of freedom of choice. Freedom to make the choices that you want to make. Freedom to make educated choices. Freedom to not be propagandized by your government. The freedom to have the government that you've elected. I think that's pretty basic and pretty important stuff in this day and age. So if you're not interested in this kind of content, I'm sure you're probably not still here. But I feel that this sort of thing goes hand in hand with homesteading. I think that a lot of people, myself included, became homesteaders because we just want to be left alone. We just want to be left in our own freedoms to do what we feel fit and what we want to do. And when things like this arise, it threatens that ability. If you have any desire in homesteading or any desire to do anything that you want to do, regardless of what it is, if we don't fight for our freedoms now, they won't be there. And people might say, well, my opinion is it doesn't go against anything that's happening right now. Like, I'm for it. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, why should I fight for it? Why should I go against the grain? Why should I put myself out there? Because someday your opinion won't be the mainstream opinion. And it's easier to fight now than 5 years from now when everything has gone downhill, you've lost all your freedoms, everything's eroded, and then all of a sudden you want to do something that is not common, is not mainstream, something that's frowned upon. What are you going to do then? I hope that you will stand with me, spread the word, share this video. I don't think I ever ask anybody to share videos. I usually just like and subscribe. But I hope that you guys will share this video on your social media platforms and with people that you know, people that you love, people who maybe don't have an opinion formed yet on this. And kind of let them know all the sides, talk to them and just convince them of the importance of freedom of choice. Without freedom of choice, freedom doesn't exist. If people are not free to make informed decisions, they're not free at all. It's a joke. I hope that you guys will talk to people and you will put yourself out there. Just remember that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the face of fear. As far as all of the mandates, whether it be local or national or anything like that, if enough people stand up and say no, it's a scary thought. Just stand strong and eventually if we do, eventually all of this will go away and we can get back to our own lives. But I feel like right now is just the time where we all have to stand firm, stand together, and stand strong. Be sure to share this video on all of your social medias, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.